Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Frank here. I've got a new tool. This is a Hobart Handler 210 MIG welder. So this is a 115 230 volt or 120 240 volt MIG welder. Now the one I've been using for the past 5 or 6 years is a Hobart Handler 140, which is a 115 only, or 120, 110, 115, 120 only. So it has limitations. Welding 1/4 inch and above is problematic with that welder due to the limitations on current. So I decided to spring for a larger welder for 1/4 inch and up to 3/8. It's supposed to handle up to 3/8 inch steel. So let's open it up and see what it looks like. It is heavy, I have to say that. It's much heavier than the other one. So see what's in the box. Just to be clear, I bought this myself. Nope, they didn't give it to me. So I owe them nothing. All right, big torch. All right, that looks nice. It's got nice spring strain reliefs on the cable. It looks like a step above my current one. The ground clamp, I don't know, it's better than the other one, but it's still pretty cheesy. It's not as good a clamp as the one on my razor weld. It's pretty stiff, and it has these round spots as opposed to just the cheap little jumper cable clamp that's on the 140. They could have done better than this. That's like the smallest spool of wire. Owner's manual. Looks like a gas line. Here's, well, some plugs. I wish they would supply these welders with the NEMA twist lock plugs. This is 20 amp 250 volt. 115 amp 125 volt regulator. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's heavy. If that's any indication of quality, I don't know. More styrofoam. Seems to be packed pretty well. So I bought this from, I mean, just in the interest of disclosure, I bought this from Northern Tool. I got it. It was on. I got my Advantage member discount and free shipping. So, for what it's worth. All right. Let's see if we can take this off the table and get it out of the box. Well, that was unintentional. It's pretty heavy. I'm going to say it's, I mean, it might be 75 pounds. That's pretty heavy. It's got a nice chart here. Solid wire. DC electropositive, gas mixture, 100% CO2. This is the 75-25 mix I normally use. Diameter of wire. So it gives you the settings for if you're using 030 wire, 660, 670. Multiple passes may be required to run the application joint. Multiple passes. So at 115 volts, I mean, they want you to stick with 1/8 inch, nothing more than 1/8 inch. So if you want 3/16, 1/4 inch, 3/8, you have to go to 230 volt. Alright, same with the 100% CO2. Stainless steel. Use a trimix, which is helium, argon, CO2. If you use flux core, here you set it to DC electrode negative. So flux core, electrode negative, solid wire, electrode positive. Don't know what the, let's see what its default setting is. Looks like it is. Default setting is electrode negative. So I need to swap that immediately. Okay, so it's nice to have this on the inside. Let me see, I got a spool of wire. Let me get that out. I've got a spool of 30 mil wire someplace. I'll have to make, an adapter so I can plug this into my electrical outlets, which are all twist lock outlets. So I have to do that. I have to go get a plug to match this, and then a piece of cable. Actually, I probably have some cable I could use. Anyway, before I can use it, I have to do that. I thought I had a 10-pound spool of 030 solid wire. I don't have. Can't lay my hands on it. Don't know where it is. So I think I switch these two leads. Just looking to see what the feed spool, the wire feed spool setting should be. Alright, so that answers the question. Which of these is used for flux core versus solid core? Alright, so that's set to the right setting. When I get the wire, put it in there to get a plug. So we'll come back after I get the necessary necessary electrical connections to run this. Looks like the nut on the ground clamp is metric. It's so great when they make parts of your tool imperial and parts metric. Some fasteners imperial and some fasteners metric. You can't make everything the same. That's because they buy stuff from overseas where everything's metric. Even our cars are that way. I think I'm going to have to buy another cart as well. All right, so I think I figured out the duty cycle on my welder. I've already exceeded its duty cycle welding up these 3 bogey carriers. So I think this new 240 volt or welder is doing a lot better than the 120 volt welder I had been using. Okay, I'm gonna let the welder cool off. We'll come back. It's been about 6 weeks, maybe 2 months since I got my Hobart 210 MVP welder, and I've been using it for some more work on the dozer, welding 1/4 and 3/8 inch material. And I've had some time to use it and compare it to the Hobart Handler 140, which I've had for several years. And it is a big difference. There's no question that the higher current that this machine will provide helps a lot in 1/4 inch or 1/4 inch and up material. No question about that. And it seems to work fine. I did make a plug adapter for it, since these welders come with like a dryer or range plug. So I made a range plug with a cord that then plugs, has a twist lock which plugs into the cable to my electrical outlets here in the shop, which are all twist lock. The gas line hooked up fine. Regulator works great. Matter of fact, one of the differences between this and my 140 is when I shut off the tank valve, and I haven't used this welder since yesterday, the gauge, the regulator and the tank gauge are still holding the same pressure, whereas on my 140 the regulator would bleed down. So maybe there was a leak in the solenoid valve within the welder itself in the 140 that this one doesn't have, so it holds the pressure. You don't leak down. I one time left my tank valve open on the 140 and it bled the whole cylinder down, in a day or two through the machine. So this doesn't seem to do that, which, that's nice. I put a 10-pound spool of wire on here, and it feeds fine. I've had zero, issues with it operating, as you would expect. I do have a couple comments about it. I wish that the controls weren't so dumb. I mean, your voltage, showing voltage here, and I would think it should show current, not voltage. And maybe it's a lower voltage means a higher current, I don't know. But, I would like to see amperage readings on here, and it just tells you, and there makes some sense for the hobbyist maybe. Most of the time if you put it on 4, you put the wire feed on 40, and 5 and 50, and 6 and 60. And 6 and 60 is where I've been running it most of the time for welding 1/4 inch material. And I think that's what the instructions say. But I wish that this was amperage or some other intelligent, so that I could apply that knowledge to a different welder that did have amperage. Now I don't have another welder, MIG welder, with amperage readings on it, so maybe it doesn't matter. For me, I'm a hobbyist. I'm not, professional welder by any means. I've done, a good bit of welding on the 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch, these track pads, and of course you saw me, a few minutes ago welding up the bogey carriers, which was 1/4 inch. I have to say that it lays down a much larger bead more quickly. I don't feel like I need to make multiple passes or weave back and forth as much. So I think that, it's definitely a big improvement over the 140, the 110 volt welder. I should have probably bought this welder when I first started out 5 years ago. But I didn't know how much I was going to do. I had no idea I was going to be building stuff like this at the time. It was just something to have to replace the old stick welder that I had. And, you know, I found that MIG welding is a lot easier than stick welding, though it's not appropriate for every application. So, you know, I'm generally happy with this. Now, I have exceeded the duty cycle on this welder 3 or 4 times over the past, you know, month working on the dozer. You know, about 20 minutes of welding. You know, on this stack of track pads, I, you know, cycled the welder twice. I hit the overload about halfway through here. I hit the duty cycle and I let it cool for about 20 minutes, and then I was able to finish. So if I were a professional welder, you know, fabricating all day, welding all day, I might look for a machine with a greater duty cycle. I think this is 30% duty cycle. So, you know, it's not going to be for the professional, I don't think, professional welder. And it's a lot less expensive. I mean, it's under $1,000 or right close to $1,000. I think if you were to buy a Miller or something else, there's my Brutus coming in again, checking on me. He's my constant shop companion. What a good boy. Yeah, you're such a good boy. Did you ever find Butchie? You know, you could get a Miller, or, you know, or one of the other more expensive brands for $2,000 or $3,000, and I'm sure you get a greater duty cycle and more features and that sort of thing. But, you know, that's a lot of money to put into a welder, at least at my point, my stage in my hobby. I can't justify that. So I think this meets my needs. You know, there aren't that many times where I'm welding up, you know, this many parts. I will be doing it again for the tracks on the other side of the dozer. But, I mean, I can deal with that. I'm not being paid to do this, not under any time constraints. So, you know, I can go do something else when I thermal out the machine. Now, it does make a small odor. I don't want to say burning electrical, but it does make an odor. You can smell that the windings in the transformer have gotten hot. There's no smoke, and not a really burning smell. It's just like, you know, when you first turn your furnace on, if you have a furnace in your house and the heater strips come on, electric heater strips, or you have a electric strip heater and it first turned on, you get a little odor off of it at first. That's kind of what it smells like. And it could just be the oils from the manufacturing that are, you know, on there and are evaporating, you know. So it doesn't feel like it's dangerous or, you know, causes any risk of fire or anything, but it does, you do get a little smell. The fan is pretty loud on it for cooling, but, you know, that does make sense. It helps it cool, and you do get a over temperature. This thing lights up when it thermals out, and I think you'll see that in some of the episodes for the dozer build. So overall, I like it. It's a much improvement over my 140 welder. I wish I had, you know, purchased this the first time, but, you know, you live and learn. You sometimes buy inexpensive tools when you don't know how often you're going to use them or how helpful they'll be, and then you wind up upgrading. And I think that's kind of the story of my life. There are some things where I, you know, follow the buy once, cry once philosophy, where I, you know, go buy the best or close to the best tool or a high quality tool because I know it'll last and I'll use it. I mean, as an example, I just bought this week, I just bought this 7-inch Makita grinder, brand new. I haven't even used it yet, just unboxed it yesterday and put a disc on it. And you know, it's a Makita, so I mean it's a good one. They don't come much better than that. And you know, I have a small Makita, 4.5-inch Makita grinder that I've had for 20 years. It's been faultless and you know, a great. So I went ahead and, you know, spent more money on this because I know I'll use it and it'll last me, I mean, the rest of my life for sure. So, you know, but the difference between top of the line angle grinder and a cheap one is $100, and between a, you know, a Hobart Welder and a Miller Matic or whatever is, you know, at least $1,000, maybe more, $1,500. So I'm happy with it. I'll continue using it, and if I find any issues with it, I'll report back on that. But so far, seems like a great welder for hobbyist or homeowner. At least if you're going to weld anything over 1/8 of an inch or 3/16 of an inch, you need something like this. So, all right, we'll sign off. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment, or if you have experience with this welder or have any comments about this welder compared to other welders, I'd love to see them. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.